everyone. Welcome to DevRunner. My name is Paul. I'm a certified running coach, and this is episode 2 of a weekly coaching and training series that's already had 3 names in the space of a week, but it's likely to remain Chasing PRs with Coach Paul. If you have any alternative name suggestions, feel free to drop them in the comments below, and trust me, I've already heard mud and I've already heard sandwich, so we'll move on from there. With that said, this series will be following the gentlemen who are sharing the screen with me as they execute training plans that I've designed to help them reach their racing goals this fall. I'm hoping this will help you to become a faster, stronger, and healthier runner yourself. So please like this video, drop a comment below and or a question if you've got any, and don't forget to subscribe and ding that bell so that you get notifications every time I post a new video. Before we do get into it, I just want to quickly shout out that earlier this week, I dropped a video on my channel, a brand new subscriber spotlight, I should say, with India Cook, who is an amazing coach. And likewise, she's a fellow YouTuber and she's a podcaster as well. She's very inspirational. So I encourage everybody to check that out. Next week, I will be posting a daily core strength routine video for the benefit of these guys and anybody else out there who wants to build a stronger core so that you can go longer with less fatigue. And finally, last week, guys, when we were talking, that did generate a question from one of my viewers. Daniela Joy wanted to know a little bit more about proper running form, not just in general, but when you're running hills specifically, because she's from Calgary and she just has to deal with hills in no matter what direction she runs in. So basically, Daniela, to address your question, I just want to say that everything that's in my video from last week about good running form in general applies. But the only other things you want to keep in mind are that when you're running up hills, you want a shorter, faster cadence so that you don't wear yourself out with those big, long, loping strides. And when you're coming down a hill, you want to attempt to keep your forward lean intact so that you're still landing mid or forefoot. Try not to land on your heels because as I say in the video, that's never a good thing. You're more likely to injure yourself. So with that said, if you need any more detail, please feel free to contact me by email or through the comments and we can go deeper. But with that said, now I want to get right into it with these guys. And Jack, we're going to start with you today, I think, and talk about how your first week of training went. I know you guys ran 5 out of the last 7 days, and I'd really mostly like to talk about the 3 sort of workoutish type of days that you guys had, which here in the early stages for you guys really just consisted of 2 different days that had strides involved, and then your long run, which was designed to be a progression run with the last mile at half marathon pace or heat adjusted marathon pace. So Jack, take it away. Let's hear how the week went for you.
Yeah, overall week went pretty good for me. I think, one of my, bigger observations and things that I'm going to continue to watch as we go through the next couple of weeks of this base building is, really trying to pull back, keep steady, and try not to push as much as my legs seem to want to go. Particularly like I've noticed, during those some of those fartlek runs that we were doing, I think it was Michael and I were doing it last, what was it, Tuesday, Thursday, I believe. Yeah, with the strides. And so, just, getting up to stride pace and pulling back. So it really pulled down that mile, trying to keep it easy, but I was really it was tough, that pulling down my mile, time per mile. So, so just trying to be cognizant of that. The long run, I thought went really well. It was, Michael attests, gosh, it was a warm, muggy morning in Lake Wiley that day that we got out there. Michael, we went slightly different directions, but had about the same, looks like about the same result there. And again, I felt pretty great for that first 7 miles. And then, for the progression up to half marathon pace, what I thought was half marathon pace turned out to be a little bit faster, a little bit, went out of the gate a little hotter than I really wanted to or thought that I was actually going. So,
Gotcha.
so it was a good, and I didn't even know it really until I was done and I saw that mile time. So, you know, so it's just kind of just taking a look at that and just, you know, really curious to see, you know, what we can do to kind of keep that in check, you know, particularly as we build, you know, the next couple of weeks here.
Gotcha. Now, before I go to Michael to kind of get his view on the week, because you guys have the same training plan, because you know, you're after the same goals and you're coming from a very, very similar sort of experience level and ability level. So you're actually sharing the same, on paper, the same training plan, but I want you guys to approach it slightly differently, and I think that will bear out as the weeks go by here. But you bring up a good point, Jack. Before I let Michael review his week, one thing I want to make note of for all three of you is the way to approach a progression run so that you're less likely to kind of hit it hot or not hit it hard enough when you're building towards whatever your ultimate goal is in the last mile, is before you go out, actually set your goal, set your paces for your progression beforehand so that you know what you're after. Generally speaking, if you know half marathon pace is going to be your last mile or your last 2 miles, whatever the length may be, sort of think of it as the 2 miles that lead up to those last couple. You want to be running at a pace that's like 15 seconds slower than that for like 2 miles. Moving backwards, pull another 15 seconds, you know, off of that and kind of work back so that you know what your starting pace is. And this way at regular intervals, you can look down at your watch, say, okay, I'm at mile 4. It's time to push it up just that little bit. And that looking at your watch makes you a little bit more likely to be cognizant of your pace so that by the time you hit goal marathon pace or goal half marathon pace for those last few miles there, it makes it easier. And the reason that's important to me, you know, like you said, Jack, you kind of hit it a little hard, not a big deal. But the reason it will become more and more important, and the reason why I'm going to start getting really finicky with you guys as the weeks go by and we get more into the heart of the training, the reason that's important to me is not just for you guys to prove, yes, I can hit that pace, you know, but more, I want you guys to begin internalizing what that pace feels like. You know, so by the time you've done your 3rd, 4th, 5th progression run in these training cycles, you really don't even have to look down at your watch. You will actually get to the point where your body just knows, I'm at pace right now. This is what it feels like. And the huge benefit to that is when race day arrives, you guys are like from mile 1, you won't be out there like hammering, going out too fast so that you burn out at the end of the race and all that stuff. You'll just be able to lock in without ever looking down at your watch. You're just going to know this is half marathon pace. I know I'm within 5 seconds on either side of what that pace feels like. Your body is just like tuned to it perfectly. And trust me, I've had enough races where I trained a lot of my aerobic runs at slower than marathon pace, I should say. And I didn't spend enough time practicing marathon pace. I was always either running below it or well above it. And then I found it really hard to lock in. And those are the races that didn't turn out well. Let me put it that way. So just to kind of get that in your mind, guys. Michael, let's bounce to you and hear how the 2 workout days in the long run went for you.
Yeah, cool. So,
yeah, sorry, I just want to say thank you, Jack.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. So I had a few takeaways, I guess, from this week. The first being, you know, like Jack said, we had strides on Tuesday and Thursday. Just due to heat and time and stuff, I've been doing them runs on a treadmill through the week. So I did those strides on the treadmill. And I think I'm pushing a little bit too fast to do those during the run. So, you know, there were 6 mile runs. First one, I think, had 6 strides. And then Thursday, it had 8 strides.
You're correct.
Before this week, the most I'd ever done as far as strides were 4. within a run. So I could definitely feel like that fatigue. I try to do them. So, we talked about this earlier, Paul, but you said don't necessarily concentrate on pace as much. But so I ran them, up to like 10 miles an hour. So, that's a six flat pace, which is moving for me.
Yeah.
And, I could definitely feel that. And then I would pull it back down, after, 100 meters or so. Yeah. So, it felt hard. Like it did feel controlled, but I think I struggled with, regaining my, it peaked my heart rate really high. So I struggled in, getting that back down low without stopping afterwards.
Yeah. And there's a couple of points, Michael, I want to make on that. Number one, you made it harder on yourself because you did it on a treadmill, which doesn't allow you to just kind of naturally accelerate and decelerate at a pace that works for you. So keep that in mind. Secondly, the point that I want to make to all three of you guys and to everybody watching, when you're doing strides, you shouldn't be trying to kill it. You shouldn't be like maxing out your speed capabilities. You only want to go up to like 90% of your top end speed and bring it down. And strides, though they do have a certain amount of benefit to building muscle and getting you used to running fast, the big benefit of strides are supposed to be making your mind aware of the biomechanics that it takes to run efficiently. I don't want you guys, when you're doing your strides, whether you're doing them mid-run or after your run is over, I don't want you guys paying attention to how fast am I going? Should I go faster? Should I slow down? And am I out of breath? Do I need to stop? That's secondary. What I want you guys to be paying attention to as you're ramping up in your speed and you're coming down right at the whole area around the peak. I want you guys to be paying attention to different parts of your body and seeing biomechanically what's happening with your body, because when you're moving fast, your body is forced to be as efficient as possible in order to maintain that speed. So I want you guys pick a different portion of your gait cycle and what you're doing with your upper body and notice that, because what I want you to do is like the example I gave to Michael earlier today was, for example, when you're ramping up that speed, take one of those strides to think about what's happening with your arm movements. Notice how as you get faster, you're pumping your arms further back, and that's allowing your leg extension on the opposite leg. Those are the kind of things, once you start to internalize what that feels like, it makes it easier to run your aerobic and your slower runs and even your faster tempo paces with more efficiency. Those are that's the whole point of the strides. Just pay attention to the way your body moves when you're moving fast and then bring that speed right back down. I'm not trying to kill you guys. I'm not trying to get you out of breath. I just want you to have the opportunity to notice what your body does when it's having to move efficiently. So with that said, Michael, I want to give you the opportunity to talk about your 8-mile long run on Saturday, which was, as we talked about with Jack, was designed to be a progression run where you're getting progressively faster.
So, I mean, it was a great run. Jack and I actually started probably within 5 to 10 minutes of each other. And it's kind of funny because we ended up going opposite ways, or we would have ran into each other.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. So, looking at my Strava, I started out 8:47, which is pretty easy pace for me. And it looks like, I was about 10 seconds faster each mile. Mile 6, I got to 7:58. And then mile 7, 7:55. And then I cranked it a little for the last mile, but it's uphill those last 2 miles. Which is a little difficult, especially with the heat and humidity, but I ran 7:32.
That's awesome. That sounds like it's about perfect for a heat adjusted pace, because just to reiterate for everybody who's fresh to this series and watching, Jack and Michael, in order to run their 1:35 half marathon goal time, will have to maintain on race day 7:15s. So with heat adjusted pace, Michael, you were pretty much right on it. So right around 7:30 because these guys were supposed to hit if it wasn't hot and humid, they should have hit 7:15 in their last miles. Jack, we saw, had the energy, and he went way past it. But
I had no idea. I felt it now.
Oh, did you? That's where I was going to go next.
Yeah.
Because Michael, I think you did a great job with the progression run, but I think you also have more experience with running progression runs than Jack does. So good news there. So yeah, the last question I have for you, Jack, and you, Michael. How did you feel on Sunday after the week's worth of workouts, and especially the day after that long run? Were you guys pretty much wiped, or do you think another 14 weeks of this kind of stuff, with it only getting harder as each week goes by? First impressions.
Oh, Michael.
Well, I mean, I felt okay. I'm not going to say I felt bad. I did some strength training on, I believe it was on Friday. So it was the day before, the long run. I lifted some weights and everything. So I was feeling that more so than I did the run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, gotcha.
So I'm going to change that up a little bit this week, as far as when I'm doing the strength training to help me recover from the long run better.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. How about you, Jack? How did the first week feel?
I felt pretty good. We got down immediately after I ran on Saturday, about showered, hopped in the car, and came on down to the coast. So got up Sunday morning and stretched out a little bit, but after just ran 8 or 9 miles, you kind of, you feel you're going to feel a little something, but it wasn't anything that was overbearing or like, oh, I'm sore. I didn't feel sore, but just felt like I had a pretty good run the day before.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. That bodes well for the future. So good stuff. So we'll see how you guys are doing after next week, where you're going to be scheduled to run 30 miles instead of the 28 that you did last week. And things start picking up. There are more strides involved, but the good news is there's no progression run at the end of the week in the long run for you guys. It's just an aerobic run, which brings me to a point I want to make for all three of you guys before we get into Joel's recap. What I'd really like you guys to start doing, and it's not going to affect you, Jack and Michael, yet, but until next Sunday, because that's going to be your first encounter with an aerobic run per se. On easy days, I'd like you guys, all three of you guys, to kind of stick as much as you can to the flattest ground you can, because those easy days should be easy. They shouldn't be challenging to you physically in any way whatsoever, beyond just covering mileage. But whenever you look on your schedules and you see the word aerobic run, the words aerobic run, that's when I want all you guys to kind of challenge yourselves a little bit, not only with pace, because you should be running at least mildly faster than an easy day run, but also take that as an opportunity to go and explore different routes with rolling terrain. If there are hills involved, I'm not saying go out there and kill yourselves and run miles uphill, but if there are places you'd like to run that have a little bit of hills, feel free to explore those. Just don't do those on the easy days. So with that said, Joel, let's jump in. You have had the misfortune of, you are now 2 weeks complete on your training cycle. So you're probably feeling a little bit more worn out than these guys are right now, but I'd love to find out how it's gone so far. And, just to give everybody a quick recap, week 2 for Joel involves 71.5 kilometers or 45-mile week. He had 2 stride workouts during that week, and then Joel, your long run was a 15-miler with 2 miles at marathon pace at the end of that. So let's get into it. How'd it go?
So the week went well. It was I felt a lot better than I did the previous week.
Good to hear.
So, hydration issues, other than Sunday, we'll get to Sunday, but hydration issues during the week, everything was fine. And it was a bit cooler I was up north, and I had some good runs. So the disappointing run was the long run on Sunday. I was thinking about, okay, what happened here? And I have some plans to make sure that I give myself a better chance at having a good long run.
Okay.
Part of the challenge was I was up north again in another location.
Mm-hmm.
The roads are challenging. So there's, they're really, really uneven. They're they can be sloping this
A
way.
lot of camber and all that. Yeah.
Tons of that, potholes, all kinds of stuff like that. Also hills, rolling hills, and
yeah, that'll do it too.
And to your point, not ideal for a progression run. You don't want to be like sort of killing yourself on hills.
Yep.
The last thing I will say is I'm going to plan better with my hydration and fueling, because that was an issue. That looking
You're talking
back,
about on the run itself.
On the run.
Okay.
On the run. So I did have a belt with one sort of large bottle.
Yep.
I put another jug of water on the course to pick up, because it's a long out and back run.
Okay.
But it was only water, and I didn't have any fuel at all, and that was not good. That did not work out for me. I sometimes do that on these long runs. I'll just run with water, and I don't think that for me, I have struggled with fueling on runs and long runs, and I always struggle with fueling. Okay. On this run in particular, I knew as soon as I just started losing energy, and it didn't make sense, other than I just kind of wiped myself out, and I didn't have any calories to take in on the run.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah,
so
that's something we're going to have to explore in detail, because that's something you're going to need to be dialing in as the weeks go by, for sure.
Right. And part of the challenge was, again, traveling, preparing to go up north. And I just, when you're running from home, it's easier to get all those details right.
Yep.
When you start, traveling and trying to plan for things.
Of course. Yeah.
Unfortunately, this was what I sort of missed for this weekend.
The way I want you to see this then is as a lot of lessons learned, hopefully. Nothing that can't be easily corrected. I'm glad to hear. The big thing is you did not injure yourself. You did not leave yourself in a position where you can't pick up the training cycle, right where it should be. So, the things I want to suggest, not just for your benefit, Joel, but for everybody listening who's new to marathoning or long distance running, is on those long runs, you want to start experimenting from week to week to find not only liquid fuels that work for you, the obvious ones being like Gatorade, which is not my favorite, because it causes sugar spikes. You get a lot of energy and then you get no energy, and a lot of energy and no energy. The benefits of running with like a running vest or a belt or anything that allows you, as your miles start to really grow, the benefit to having a belt with you is that you can carry that liquid fuel with you and to try to keep your energy levels even throughout the run. Gatorade, like I said, or any kind of sugary sports drink, a lot of people, it tends to upset their stomach and causes energy spikes followed by really bad lows. That's why things like Tailwind or UCAN are becoming more and more prevalent with distance runners, because that's actually a starch-based drink that slowly releases sugars into your system and allows you to maintain a more even energy level. What I tend to do is I use Tailwind that has a small amount of caffeine in it, because as you become more tired, that caffeine jolt can really help. And then I combine that with gels. And for me, the best gel schedule that works for me is once every 4 miles, I will gel up. And that usually keeps me right where I want to be. But that was a long process to learn what worked for me. And that's where Joel is at. That's where I'm sure all these guys are going to be at, because to a lesser extent, Michael and Jack are also going to have to dial that in. Jack, I especially expect to hear a little bit on the woes of fueling as your long runs start to get longer, because I know that's brand new territory for you as well. So yeah, Joel, just keep that in mind. Hopefully you can, get an Amazon order in, try Tailwind, you can, all that kind of stuff, or just run to the supermarket and get a few bottles of Gatorade and get that in your bottle for next time around.
Yeah. So the other sort of thing, when I run with my group, there's support on the run, which is beautiful. So
gotcha.
There'll be two cars laid out on the course there to kind of refuel you. So my planning, I'm just going to be much more careful with planning going forward, because, during the summer, I'm sort of moving around a little bit. I'll be different locations and the other thing is back to the vest. I do have one. I've never actually used it on a run. I use it as for mountain biking. I'll check it out. I'll just take a look at it. Maybe I'll tell you what I have, and we can figure out if it's,
Yeah, we can look at that offline, and we'll go through all that. I'm more than happy to help you with that. I did the same years ago with Michael, when he was starting to first figure this stuff out too. So, and yeah, Jack as well. I mean, we'll take that offline, and we can explore all the possibilities. But I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something that all the viewers who are looking to run their first long races will have to explore as well. So yeah, Joel, I think we're down to 3 minutes before Zoom gives us the boot. So guys, I'm just going to open this up. If there are any last questions, any last thoughts you'd like to share with the viewers about lessons you guys have learned in the last 7 days, the floor is yours.
I will say that this is the first time, usually when I start a training cycle, well, for one thing, the training cycle is usually longer. So it makes sense that I'm more resilient, but I am feeling quite physically strong. Like even after the long run, I felt good. I felt good that night. I felt good. I felt great today.
I'm glad to hear that.
So I'm pretty happy about that. I feel like that's a good sign.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Because, I mean, I don't want to scare anybody here, but you guys are in the easy stages right now.
Yeah. The other thing too is Jack mentioned sort of the little aches and pains and little things that, like, I usually do have a lot of those little things bothering me. But I, knock on wood, I feel pretty good. Yeah. And I think it's just sort of preparing for this and just based on my activity over the last year or so.
Great. I'm glad to hear you're feeling good. And one good last point to make for all you guys, I think, and for everybody watching, if you go out for a long run or a hard workout and you feel a little niggle, a little, something wrong, I'd say go out on an easy run next time and see if it's still there. If you have any kind of pain or fairly extreme discomfort that causes you to not be able to run with a proper gait cycle, if it's affecting the way you run, stop running. Because if you keep it up, even if that pain isn't that bad, what's going to happen is you're going to start compensating, which means you're going to change your gait cycle. You're going to start putting pressure on some other muscle or some other joint that isn't used to it. Next thing you know, you're going to have real trouble. So get to your PT if you have to. Trust me, if you miss a couple of days running, it's a lot better than missing weeks, because you really did some real damage. So with that incredibly wonderful and positive note, guys, I want to thank you all again for being here. Your experiences with this little experiment of ours is very invaluable to a lot of runners who are learning, by watching. So thank you, guys. And any final thoughts before we sign off?
Looking forward to another good week.
Glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it. Awesome, guys. So I'll be watching you on Strava, and all your Strava pages are in the show notes below. So anybody who's watching this who wants to follow these guys on a day-to-day basis, Just go below and you'll find it. And with that, I want to say, what do I want to say? I want to say, get healthy, stay strong, and keep pushing. Peace out, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Thanks.